I'm joined by a member of both committees. Andy Biggs is here. The congressman is a member of both the House Judiciary and Oversight committees. Congressman, you had a busy day yesterday. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure, Vince. Yeah, I was moving from committee to committee, back and forth, but all day. It was interesting and important.
Yeah, it sure was. So I assume you voted the same way in both committees to hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress, or did you vary it up to keep things interesting?
I don't know. I was thinking of in Oversight voting against it, but no, I did vote for both both committees. I voted for contempt.
And give me the rationale. Obviously, I think I know, but why is it that you would consider Hunter Biden to be in contempt of the People's Congress?
You've got a committee that had authority to issue a subpoena. You had a subpoena that was issued, a subpoena that was served, acknowledgement of that service. There was a specific date, time, location. And instead of showing up there at that specific date, time, and location, he came over to the Senate and just outside the reach of the Sergeant at Arms for the House to do a press conference, aided and abetted by Eric Swalwell. He does a press conference and basically says, I know I'm supposed to be doing deposition, but I'm not going to do it. And then he had the temerity to show up yesterday for about 15 minutes until he realized that he would be the main focus. His presence would be the main focus, and then he skedaddled out of there.
Well, he was inside the reach of the Sergeant at Arms yesterday. Why not arrest him?
Because at this point, we're beyond the date and time, and now we've got a contempt citation, and we have to follow through with it. We had not passed it out, and you have to get that through the floor. If you tried that again after we had done it on the floor, then you could insist that the Sergeant at Arms actually take him into custody, believe it or not.
Wow. Okay. Well, so we'll see if he comes back to Congress, knowing that's hanging out there. So, yeah, he one of the obvious things that he thinks he's going to be able to get away with here is, well, I agreed. I told them I would testify. In fact, I would testify publicly, and I keep showing up in order to express that view. That was the stunt yesterday. I believe he also had a camera crew in tow because he's been filming a documentary about all of this drama. What do you make of this talking point that, he's so willing to testify?
He was so willing to testify yesterday that he managed to stay in the committee room about 10, 12 minutes once Nancy Mace started asking him questions. Then he had a Democrat, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene's turn came up, and away he went. He doesn't want to answer questions in public, and actually I think it's a bluff on the part of the Democrats. Think about it. Do you think that the Democrats really want 15 to 30 hours of Hunter Biden sitting there, and every time the Republicans ask him questions saying, well, I'm under a criminal investigation, so I can't answer that, or I'm going to take the fifth, or I can't recall, because that would be the answers to those questions.
Right. Well, and if he did public testimony, every single one of those Democrats would serve as a defense attorney for Hunter Biden. Oh, yeah. They'd be kicking up all sorts of dirt. It is interesting. What about Joe's involvement in all of this? When Hunter first refused to respond to the subpoena and come and testify before your committee, the White House indicated that day that, Joe talked to him ahead of time. Yesterday, they were more evasive on that. In fact, Karine Jean-Pierre refused to indicate one way or the other if Joe had a conversation with Hunter before that stunt yesterday. What are the implications there?
Well, the implications are, since it is criminal contempt, that if you knew about it and you facilitated, you either obstructed justice or obstructed a congressional proceeding, which, by the way, is what they keep calling an insurrection. So you had Joe Biden committing an insurrection. But the other thing is, between him and Swalwell, you had aiding and abetting a criminal offense, which was to avoid the service and to be in criminal contempt of Congress. So, I mean, it is a real thing. And it's a serious thing, which is why all of a sudden Karine Jean-Pierre is now changing the story. Well, maybe he didn't know. We're not going to talk about it anymore. I watched her presser, and it's pretty weak sauce what's being served by the White House right now.
Yes, weak sauce. That's a good way to summarize most of her press conferences. Let's talk about the way that the Biden administration is weaponizing the United States Department of Justice and all of these various Democrat prosecutors across the country to take down Joe Biden's top political opponent. We found out some more information this week about the Fulton County District Attorney, Fanni Willis. Apparently, she hired her boyfriend, who was cheating on his wife, as a special prosecutor. And then between the two of them, they've taken well over $1 million in taxpayer funding over the last 2 years. And he's also, and this is all to go after Trump. And he has apparently visited the White House now on multiple occasions for hours-long conversations with the White House counsel's office. What do we know about this?
Well, what it is, I mean, this is consistent. Don't forget, we found out that apparently Jack Smith's top aide met with the White House before the Trump investigation really got cooking as well.
Yep.
With Jack Smith. So this is consistent. It's being run out of the White House. There's a reason why we view DOJ and, quite frankly, the White House as being weaponized instead of seeking justice. It's a political witch hunt, and they've gone after Trump and, quite frankly, Trump associates. I mean, don't forget you've got Matthew Graves, the D.C. USA, who's going after now. He says, if you were on the Capitol grounds on January 6, 2021, even if you never entered the building, never attempted to enter the building, weren't engaged in violence or anything, we're going to track you down and bring criminal charges against you here. That's the type of thing where people say, look, we don't have a justice system anymore. We have an injustice system, and it's not just a two-tier system, what you've got going on here. But Fanni Willis, I've actually introduced legislation that says because she's engaged in this kind of conduct, and they've used federal money, by the way, Vince, in the Fulton County Attorney's Office. We're not going to send federal dollars to the Fulton County Attorney anymore because they're abusing their power and authority. That shouldn't happen anywhere to anyone in this country.
And yet they're doing it against Trump in an effort, of course, to stop him from prevailing in the next election. You've also got, in addition to, as you mentioned, Jack Smith's aides meeting with the White House prior to prosecuting Trump, and the Fulton County office meeting with the White House prior to prosecuting Trump. You also had the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, visited the Biden White House both before and after. White House visitors logs show that Letitia James visited on April of 2022, August of 2023, and July of 2023. That's on both sides of her filing a $250 million civil suit against Trump, which had, kind of the end of that trial today. In New York. So the White House's fingerprints are all over this, Congressman.
Yeah, absolutely. And I view that as, if you're by tampering effectively with the elections, because he knew that Trump was running, and this is designed, quite frankly, the timing of all this is designed to keep President Trump in court, in litigation, all the way to the 2024 election. And by doing that, in my opinion, that's a high crime. You have tampered with the justice of the United States of America, and you've used your position and power to do so.
Yeah.
And I just don't think you can allow that to stand. The other side would not allow it to stand if Trump did it, and nor should we allow it to stand with Biden doing it.
I just remember back to Bill Clinton meeting with Loretta Lynch on a tarmac on an airplane. That was a huge deal. That was a big scandal because you had the United States Department of Justice making an examination of Hillary Clinton's theft of classified information. And for Bill Clinton to meet with the Attorney General on a tarmac on an airplane, and then they claimed they talked about their grandchildren, it was a massive scandal to most people. And now you have the White House doing that on a routine basis with prosecutors who are not even federal officials.
No, that's right. By the way, that was in Phoenix, so I'll always remember the tarmac meeting in Phoenix. But I mean, that's the point. Is they're having these meetings to encourage lawfare to gain an advantage in the political process. That is really, quite frankly, it's unbelievable. But we know it to be believable. We know it to be true. And Congress should finally take off the gloves and take action against this administration. But I fear that too many of my colleagues don't understand leverage. And leverage for us, or the check that we have against a runaway executive branch, what the founders gave us, was the purse strings. And you can design whatever you want to do with the purse strings to actually impose penalties when there's abuse like we see from the White House.
Well, does Speaker Mike Johnson have the stomach for that? We just saw, over the weekend, we saw that he had come to an agreement on spending with Chuck Schumer. The status of that is now kind of an open question because as of today, we're seeing all these reports. Chuck Schumer publicly announced that they plan on moving forward now with another short-term continuing resolution. What's going on in the spending fight, and will we see anything that benefits the American people?
Yeah, so I think that there's enough of us on our side that have pushed back on this to show the folly of what they were trying to do with this Schumer deal, that Johnson's had to reconsider. He's being pushed by the moderate high dollar spending crowd to continue with it, and those of us who think it's too much and that you actually should be solving the border problem. Well, I think we've enticed him to make some kind of reconsideration. Now, will he come all the way off that deal and make a new deal? I don't know. And so there's a lot of talk now about a short-term CR.
Yes.
And my position is you should maybe protect the military, the veterans, the border patrol, ICE, TSA, and air traffic controllers, and then you just unplug it. Mandatory funding would still continue with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, but then you unplug after everything I just said, which is to secure the country, and just tell the Biden administration, we're not going to fund you until you actually start bringing the border under control. The border is absolutely a mess, and quite frankly, it's expanding to the entire country, the impacts of what's going on our border.
It's totally destructive, and anything that can be done to bring some order to the border would be a huge deal. Congressman Andy Biggs, thank you as always for joining us and for that update from Congress today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.